Coming up, a new rom-com from my reigning queen of rom-coms.
A new book from one of our favorite travel authors.
Plus, our distraction of the week. I'm Mel.
I'm Dave. This is the Library of Lost Time.
Eleanor Littman has been writing rom-coms with teeth for 35 years.
That's a good run.
It is a good run. And she's been called the modern-day Jane Austen. But I think of her books as cousins to E.M. Forster's A Room with a View. That novel tells the coming-of-age story of Lucy, a young girl who's almost always in a muddle of her own making. I love Lucy Honeychurch so much. Eleanor Littman's characters are like that too. They distrust their instincts. They worry way too much about what other people think until eventually they don't. And that's when the magic really starts to happen. Along the way, they often fall imperfectly but perfectly in love.
Which is kind of your perfect rom-com setup there.
It really is. One of the things I love about these books, though, is that they're not only about romance. There's almost always an ensemble cast of characters that help the heroine explore the bonds of familial love and friendship and all of the rewards and messiness involved in that. Eleanor Littman is very good at setting up unexpected friendships and exploring how the differences play out in hilarious and moving ways. So in Isabel's Bed, it's a scandalous socialite and a mousy writer. In It Lake Divine, it's a Jewish girl and a family of Gentiles. And in her new book, Every Tom, Dick, and Harry, it's a 30-something woman named Emma who, through a series of comic mishaps, finds herself roommates with Frank, a friend of her dad, who is newly widowed and was her former math teacher.
Oh.
And now, in addition to sharing a roof, the two end up working together in a business devoted to staging estate sales. So that gives them an excuse to kind of poke around in other people's houses and into their personal lives.
Sounds like he starts very firmly in the friend zone there.
Oh, the romance is not between the two of them.
Oh, okay.
He is her father's age.
Yeah.
And she's in her 30s. They are the quirky friendship.
Okay.
But then there are all kinds of romantic entanglements with a bunch of other characters. And it's all sparkly fun on the surface, which is Eleanor Littman's specialty. But then underneath, there's explorations of grief and small-town drama, which plays for comedy, but when you live through it, is sometimes not so funny.
Yeah.
And all of these overlapping romantic shenanigans. While I'm reading this, we are also watching season 2 of the show Shrinking.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, it's a comedy about grief.
There have been a series of comedies lately that have centered around things that you would not expect comedy to really go into.
Mm-hmm.
Like philosophy with The Good Place.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I guess, abandonment with Schitt's Creek.
And grief with Ted Lasso, too, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of grief in Ted Lasso. Yeah.
Yeah, so all of those shows and this book kind of have a similar vibe for me. If you're not familiar with Shrinking, all of the characters are wrestling with guilt and grief to varying degrees, while they're also trying to love the people around them.
Yeah.
And while saying and doing things that are sometimes so beautiful and sometimes so boneheaded.
Yeah. And all of the characters are just lovable. Like, I want to be friends with all of them.
Even when they're saying terrible things.
Maybe even especially when they're saying terrible things, you want to just sit next to them and be like, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Don't.
Why?
No, don't. No. Stop the mouth.
So the show stars Jason Segel and Harrison Ford and a fantastic ensemble cast.
Yeah.
Jason Segel writes the show with Bill Lawrence and Brett Goldstein. And those last two guys also were responsible for Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
So the DNA is there.
Yep.
There are moments in the show that make me throw my head back and laugh so hard. And then, like, seconds later, there are tears bursting out of my eyeballs.
Sure.
And I'm talking about a TV show because the dialogue and rhythm of the book, Every Tom, Dick, and Harry, feels very similar to me. Like, right from the jump, Emma, the female character, is very candid with Frank about his situation, how she feels about them living together, what happened with his widowed wife. Like, she is pulling no punches. At the same time, she is blind to her own situation, which is very similar to the beloved characters of those TV shows I talked about.
Yeah.
I'm about 8 chapters into this book, and it has been a joy so far to spend time with these characters. I can't wait to see what Eleanor Lippman is going to do to them, because I'm still in setup land, and the setup is a delight. This book is Every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I'll also put links in the show notes to my other favorite Eleanor Lippman books, because as today is Valentine's Day, it is a wonderful time to explore her output. I also wrote an essay about why she's the new E.M. Forrester. There will be a link to that in the show notes too.
So if you are just getting started with Eleanor Lippman, would you start with this one?
So far, I'm really enjoying this book. If I was going to pick my top favorite out of her 18 or so novels, I would pick The Inn at Lake Divine. You can find the link to that in the show notes.
I suspect that if you listen to us, you know who Rick Steves is, but just in case. Rick Steves is a travel writer and a TV host. He has a long-running series in the U.S. called Rick Steves Europe. In that show, he introduces different European countries and he explains why you might want to go there. He is also the author of a series of guides. Amazon says he's written almost 600 books.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Are they counting new editions?
Yeah, most of those are annual updates.
Okay.
Still.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of ISBN numbers. His approach to travel is very thoughtful. He recommends traveling like a local, staying in small family hotels and eating in neighborhood restaurants. There are 2 things about Rick that might seem contradictory. First, Rick has strong dad vibes.
He really does.
He's got blue button-down shirts and his sense of humor and his goofy outtakes after the show and his insistence that travelers see the museums and meet the locals. Those all feel like the kind of guy who might wear socks with sandals.
And he has very corny humor in his guides.
Yes, he does. But also, secondly, Rick is a left-wing hippie. He's on the board of NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. He fought hard to get marijuana legalized in his home state of Washington. They won that. He donated a $4 million apartment building to the local YMCA as a shelter for homeless women and their children.
I love that story so much.
Yeah. And he volunteers $1 million a year in carbon taxes to offset his tours. When I think about authors who have impacted my life, I want it to be somebody cool and cutting edge like Murakami or Vonnegut or some philosopher, but it's Rick. Rick has to be in my top 5. He's the author who brought us to Europe. Every time we go to a new city, we do one of his walking tours first, which means he's introduced us to dozens of places, including our hometown. In our house, we are all on a first-name basis, which brings me to Rick has a new book out. And this is not his usual guidebook. This book is called On the Hippie Trail, Istanbul to Kathmandu, and the Making of a Travel Writer. In 1978, when Rick was a 23-year-old piano teacher, he and a buddy toured from Turkey through Iran and Afghanistan and into India and Nepal. Rick kept an extensive journal and he took photos. When he got home, he packed all of that up, the journal and the images, and he forgot about it for 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And he came across it during lockdown and he decided to publish it. And this book is that journal. It will give you a strong sense of what that trip was like in the late 70s. The photos alone are worth a flip through, both to see the countries then and to see Rick's hair.
He does have epic hair.
The hair is amazing. If you're curious, you can see those photos without the book. We'll put a link in the notes. That'll point to Rick's site where you can also see a complete scan of the original journal.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. You should know there's a line in the preface. Rick writes, quote, "We are determined to share a candid, unvarnished snapshot of our trip, and we've been careful not to make me sound older, wiser, or more culturally sensitive than I was at the time." And I can confirm that. There is some writing in the book that just makes me wince.
Yeah.
It's a little hard, both for the writing and for the content.
He's got a real aw shucks vibe that can go a little too far sometimes.
Yeah, there's just some stuff in this book that if it had been published then, it would have been a little smoothed over.
Yeah.
And it is not.
It's kind of cool of him to publish it that way, though.
Yeah.
I like the way he's willing to stick his neck out, even though my sense is that a vast majority of his audience might be far more conservative than he is.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, same. So if you are a Rick fan or if you're curious about that trip this book delivers, it came out last week. It's On the Hippie Trail by Rick Steves.
Whisper sweet, nothing's clear. Let's dance cheek to cheek. It's our distraction of the week.
If you're listening to this on release day, happy Valentine's Day. I hope you are loving the people you want to love in the way they want to be loved, and you're being loved back in the way you want to be loved. If none of that is working out for you, we're less than 24 hours from a chocolate sale, so take your wins when you can get them. In celebration of love, I want to read you a poem. This is from Taylor Mali. Taylor Mali is a poet, an educator, and a spoken word performer. He was born in 1965 in New York City. He says he's a 13th generation resident of New York City.
Whoa.
Yeah. Descended from 17th century Dutch settlers. He came up through the slam poetry movement, the performance-oriented wing of poetry, and he now makes his living entirely as a spoken word and voiceover artist. This is a poem from his book, What Learning Leaves. It's called How Falling in Love is Like Owning a Dog. First of all, it's a big responsibility, especially in a city like New York. So think long and hard before deciding on love. On the other hand, love gives you a sense of security. When you're walking down the street late at night and you have a leash on love, ain't no one gonna mess with you. Because crooks and muggers think love is unpredictable. Who knows what love could do in its own defense? On cold winter nights, love is warm. It lies between you and lives and breathes and makes funny noises. Love wakes you up all hours of the night with its needs. It needs to be fed so it will grow and stay healthy. Love doesn't like being left alone for long, but come home and love is always happy to see you. It may break a few things accidentally in its passion for life, but you can never be mad at love for long. Is love good all the time? No. Love can be bad. Bad love. Bad. Very bad love. Love makes messes. Love leaves you little surprises here and there. Love needs lots of cleaning up after. Sometimes you just want to get love fixed. Sometimes you want to roll up a piece of newspaper and swat love on the nose, not so much to cause pain, just to let love know, don't you ever do that again. Sometimes love just wants to go out for a nice long walk, because love loves exercise. It will run you around the block and leave you panting, breathless, pull you in different directions at once, or wind itself around and around you until you're all wound up and you cannot move. But love makes you meet people wherever you go. People who have nothing in common but love stop and talk to each other on the street. Throw things away, and love will bring them back. Again and again and again. But most of all, love needs love. Lots of it. And in return, love loves you and never stops.
Visit strongsenseofplace.com/library for more on the books we talked about today and links to more Valentine-worthy poems.
Thanks for joining us in the Library of Lost Time. Remember to visit your local library and your independent bookstore to lose some time yourself.
Stay curious. We'll talk to you soon.